Did you know that BDSM and kink are healthy outlets for aggression, imagination, and attention? Hi, and welcome to The Partition, home of Kinky Wellness. My name is Dana Slosser, and I'm a sexual wellness coach that dives deep into all things kinky. I'm here to show how BDSM and kink deserves a rightful spot within the sexual wellness conversation. So, let's talk about it. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Partition Podcast. Today I'm with Katrina. How's everyone doing today?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So today we're going to be doing some myths and debunking them, which seems like a fun thing to do. So did you want to start with your first myth that you got?
Okay, so there was loads, as we both found out when we were looking through them. I think we ended up on quite similar articles, actually. So the first myth that I have is the female orgasm can only be achieved via vaginal penetration, and that is very obviously not true.
That's such an old school myth too. I would be surprised if I heard, you know what? It's weird. It's like, I want to be surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously there's still people out there that think that.
There is, and even though it's been, I think, proven via data and like scientific research that most women prefer clitoral stimulation. It's actually less common for women to just be able to achieve orgasm via penetration alone.
This reminds me of that documentary, that one that I did with the Orgasm Inc. And they basically convinced all these women that they couldn't have orgasms because they had some sort of sexual dysfunction with them. And it just turned out that it was lack of education on how to self-pleasure.
Yeah, which I think is a lot of the issue for most sex, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just lack of education on both sides.
But yeah, so what is, oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say that kind of rolls into one of the myths that I had, which is like sex burns major calories, which is ridiculous. Well, even it said in the blurb off, I'm going to put all the links in the description, but it said that experts estimate 30 minutes of sex can burn 85 to 150 calories. But really, that's nothing. You need 3,500 calories just to burn 1 pound. Yeah. And as article said, but honestly, let's be frank, I don't think people are having sex for 35 minutes.
No, I think a lot of people have this idea of, oh, I'm having sex, it should take X amount of time. But realistically, sex is 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, and I don't think it's that adventurous. Like, from the sounds of it, it just seems like people like sometimes I feel like people just try to put it into their schedule. They just jam it in there with the 5-10 minutes, and they don't really enjoy, or like they do enjoy, but they don't get the full benefits of what sex can be. Because you do need to set aside time. And even if you are having sex for 1 hour, it's not like the whole thing it shouldn't be like, it can be activity, but it can be mind games. It can be lying there and playing with someone with like a feather. Like, there doesn't actually have to be any sweat breaking whatsoever.
No, I also don't think I'd enjoy it if sex was that vigorous for 30 minutes. Like, there's no build up, there's no intimacy. It kind of feels like, like the jackrabbit ones of like the dun, 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 dun. You're like, that after a while would feel very uncomfortable.
Well, it kind of goes to your point about sometimes with sex toys being if it goes too hard and then you become numb. Like, that is the case too with rougher sex that I think people should kind of take into consideration as well.
Yeah, I agree. I also think, especially with like, not even with men and women, actually, no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing anal, whether you're doing vaginal penetration as well, getting dry is normal. If you go for too long as well, you do get vaginal dryness. So surely it would be.
And there's so many factors to that. I hate when they get in these arguments about whether or not a woman should be dry or not. Like, if she's dry, she's not turned on. There's a myth for you. That's bullshit. Yes. Like, okay, just random experiences. Like, if you move around a lot and like you have air conditioner or fan going or anything, like the smallest of things that people forget about, that could make the element. Is the air dry in the fucking room? So many things.
Oh, hormones. How close to your period are you? Like, because I find for myself, from a personal perspective, I get super, super horny when I am really close to being on my period. That's how I always know. But I'm drier than a Sahara desert down there because my hormones are all in flux.
Yeah,
although I
like,
am having really bad hot flushes at the same time. So it's a whole other ball game.
oh my gosh, there's no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that, but it's true though. I think
Yeah.
people think that there has to that those are linked for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think so many people, I think also people think that you stay wet the whole time, which also leads back to that idea of spell of if it goes on for too long, or if you get bored in the middle, or even just you don't just automatically stay wet, because let's be completely honest, as women with vaginas, we'd be like leaving little snail trails if we so much as even thought about sex.
No,
it doesn't work like that. We are not constantly dripping.
Well, that kind of like what you said to your previous point there, that's also a myth. Like the longer the duration, the better. That's not true either. Like sometimes sex, if you put it on too long and you have these lulls, these valleys of, wait, what are we doing again? Haha, like insert silence here.
Oh no, my leg's gone numb. Can we move to the other position?
Yeah, like sometimes that happens. I think when partners don't talk, like there are some people that don't talk during sex. And I think that is, you know what, if you don't feel like talking, that's fine. But I do feel like you're doing yourself a disservice by not communicating while talking. You have to get comfortable with using the words. People are not mind readers. So you can fall into this trap of people just doing one position for too long because someone's afraid to voice their opinion.
Yeah, or I think not even just the worry about voicing the opinion, worry about ruining the mood, I think, as well. I think maybe a lot of women, I would say probably mostly women, with that shame about being seen as sexually adventurous, or that idea of kind of, oh, if I say I don't like this position, or can we change this position, is it going to ruin the mood because we've had to stop what we're doing, when actually it can heighten the mood and it can help build up to something more fun. But I don't think I could handle sex for an hour. I am happy to say that if I had a partner that wanted to keep going for an hour. No, it is, for me at least, it is a myth that for over an hour is fun.
No, well, I beg to differ. I think I've had days where I've had, you set it up, and obviously it's not like we said, one continuous motion the whole time, but the breaks, the lulls, the touching of other body parts, like lying down, the feather example, tying someone down, doing a blindfold, waiting, that sense of anticipation, like when's it going to happen, waiting for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the case may be. But just before I move past this, I actually feel when it comes to lack of communication, as much as it's on both sides, men are fearful to switch up positions sometimes. I think from my perspective, I find that maybe it's just me, but maybe the girlfriends that I'm friends with, we voice our opinion before the guys will. I think when it comes to sex or changing positions.
I mean, yeah, maybe it is gender stereotypes, which actually leads into my second myth.
Okay.
Where is it? I need to just get my little notes up. The sex myth that men only want casual sex, whereas it's women who only want relationship sex, when actually it's being found that that's not true. Everyone, regardless of gender, has their personal experiences regarding sex and relationships. And in my personal experience, I know more women out there who actively seek and prefer casual sex over relationships, and men who are really, really wanting that intimacy that comes from a relationship and the sex that you get within a relationship.
I agree with the men. I agree with the man statement in the sense that they are lacking. They want intimacy, and it's scary now. It's just scary to ask for intimacy for either side. But I think with a man, I think it's just twice as scary for some reason. They're just so, because women are scary. I'm not going to sit here and say that we aren't. No, I find that women are allowed to bark back twice as loud and not get yelled at the same way a man would. It's just weird. If you see a girl yelling at their boyfriend, people will be like, oh, what's going on? But if you see a boyfriend yelling at their girlfriend, you see how quickly that energy changes and how fast someone will come to her defense versus the flip side of that coin.
No,
that's just
I
my
agree.
personal opinion.
No, I agree on that one. And it's some things I've seen in real life. I think also as well, if we take it from that kind of that argument, maybe it is based around this idea as well of, if a woman wants a relationship, women, we are told from a very young age, you are supposed to want a relationship. So actually, if we turn around when we're dating or we're having, you know, we're going out there, we're dating people, we're hooking up, and we say to people, actually, I don't like casual sex, I would prefer a relationship. That's seen as a norm. But because men are told you're only supposed to want to fuck, you're only supposed to want casual sex, add that onto this kind of new conversation, these conversations happening around women no longer wanting to fulfill the role of mother within a relationship, which is completely understandable. When women are going, I don't want to date a man who I feel I have to mother. That I think is a completely rational argument to have. But for men, it's almost the minute they ask for a relationship, the minute they ask for intimacy, maybe they are worried, and maybe there is a kind of stereotype and idea that if men are asking for a relationship and intimacy, it's because they are seeking that like mothering role within a relationship, when actually that's probably not the case. They just want to date.
I think they just want to date, honestly. Like again, when it comes to stats on like things like Tinder and stuff of like these guys hooking up, it's a small percentage. It's a top 10% of males. Like if you get an average male versus a good looking male, same with women on these dating apps, the ones that are obviously attractive are getting all the pick of the litter. And these men that are kind of average looking, nothing wrong with them, they're sitting in this boat of like no one swiping on them. And so they are like craving this intimacy here. But then, you know, you get into, if you go down too far down that road, like it's just, no one should be so lonely that they're doing things that are crazy. Like, but people go crazy when they are that lonely.
Yeah.
But anyways, regardless of that, we'll skip on to the next one. What's your next myth that you got there?
So it was actually a personal one that I found. As somebody who suffers with vaginismus, I kind of wanted to have a look at the myths surrounding that. So one of the ones I found that I can very, very, very clearly say is a myth is that vaginismus interferes with arousal and means that a person has low sex drive. This is very much not the case. For myself, I have vaginismus. Penetrative sex is still something I cannot have, whether due to emotional reasons or stress or anything can set that side off because it is a physical thing. But at the same time, I have a very, very high sex drive and I have a very high arousal rate. It's why, you know, I do enjoy masturbation. I haven't had a relationship and I haven't had sex with somebody in a long time, but I don't think that means I don't have arousal or a sex drive, because I do enjoy getting off. I enjoy pleasure. And I think a lot of people are very similar to me. They've just found other things that work. And maybe it does kind of stem back to my first myth as well, of this idea that the only way to enjoy pleasure as anybody who's got a vagina or a vulva is that it's got to be penetrative, which is very clearly not the case.
Well, it also, to me, from my understanding of it, it's an involuntary thing that your body does against your brain. So it has it's a nervous system issue, no? Like it's the body's remembering things.
So when it's active, it's more fight or flight is the only way I can describe. Like that's the kind of brain receptors it invokes. So if you get nervous during sex, it's that idea of like the tightening of like, it means, it's not a nervous reaction, it's a muscle reaction. So it's basically the way your body, it like the way when you get scared or when you have like a jump fright or anything, the way like the muscles in like your back and you're tense. That's what my vagina does on a very regular basis.
Okay, well, I'm glad thank you for outlining that and making that a little more clear for me.
It is a hard one because obviously when we do talk about the vulva and the vagina, we talk about the nerve endings and the nerve receptors, but actually no, they're very powerful muscles within the vagina. I call it my little clam or my little
I'm just like picturing a superhero clam now, just like,
yeah.
No, I'm protecting you.
It is. I'm like, she's so tight. In a minute, I'm going to make a little pearl. That's the way I say
That's so
it.
cute. That's so cute.
Oh, but yeah. So what is your next myth then?
Well, we're speaking of masturbation. One of them is there's no such thing as too much masturbation, which I know I did the porn addiction one, and I kind of wanted to relate it to the porn addiction one. And also because as much as masturbation might seem like an interesting thing, when it starts creeping into you canceling plans, you're losing sleep, you're hiding it, like you start doing more and more, it becomes this addictive behavior. Absolutely. Too much of anything can become dangerous, including masturbation.
I've never heard about an addiction before, but no, I agree. They say you should like if you have issues with sleeping, they say it can, if you get used to getting off in order to fall asleep, they say it can impact your sleep schedule as well.
Oh, there you go. So there's a status that like, there you go. I would love to read that.
I will try and find it for you. But yeah, I read that.
What did you say? You've never heard of what addiction?
Masturbation as an addiction. I've heard of sex addiction, but then I suppose they go hand in hand, don't they?
Well, like that's kind of how porn addiction is, right? Like you at the end, like there are people that go out and look at just the videos and don't masturbate at all. Like they just wants to see the visual stimulation. But again, there's the flip side of that coin. There's half the other people, they are going on there to get that to masturbate, to get off. And again, I think, it becomes in how you're doing it. Like you can get off every day. That's fine. But again, if it starts creeping in and you feel guilt or what you're watching, how you're doing it, if it's canceling plans, interfering with your day-to-day, then that is by definition addictive behavior, I think, like more or less.
Yeah, if you can't go without it, then it's seen as it's an addictive action for you.
But I think the reason why this might be a myth is because the WHO does not consider porn addiction as an addiction. So I think at the bare bones of it, there's a fracture in the conversation about addiction right at the very beginning, on the very groundwork of it. So everything that stands above it doesn't have a very stable foundation, in my opinion.
Yeah, understandable. I completely agree with that, actually. And I think when it comes to sex and masturbation, I think there's still so much that people aren't talking about within these types of spaces, that things are immediately getting pushed to the side and ignored.
And it's such a slippery, it's hard to talk about it because you almost have to get caught in order to get caught in this type of addiction. Or like, it's very difficult to come forward.
Yeah, because how do you describe it to somebody? Because if you're just saying to someone, I'm watching porn, they're just going to go, well, so's nearly everybody else. And then it's that conversation of, but I'm watching it here. Like you said, that it's only ever talked about when you get caught to the extreme of like, oh, I was watching it at work or on a work laptop.
What you said, like if you tell someone you're watching porn, they're just like, so what, everybody else is. And it almost gets numbed down. Like, because everybody else has got this like little addiction. This is how I feel about coffee. I feel like coffee is the normalized addiction that absolutely everybody is just okay with and just lets everybody else be okay with, because caffeine affects you. And we've studies on all of this shit about how you shouldn't have caffeine 2 hours within waking up. But then we have cultures that are structured around having caffeine the first thing you do when you wake up. So it's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
I'm sorry, I do.
Honestly, we got rid of our coffee machine. I don't drink a lot of coffee. We're tea people though. Which has caffeine in it, but I drink like tea every hour. It feels like every hour on the hour. I'm like, tea, anybody?
I'm going to sound like a really bad English person right now. Unless I am ill, I don't like tea.
Really?
Yeah, I really don't enjoy it. I find, I prefer my coffee. I will drink tea. But there's only like 2 specific brands that I will drink from because, I'm a diehard.
Okay, I need to know. What are they?
You need to get them for when I visit.
Yes. But anyways, I'm going back to That's funny. Now everybody knows that we love tea and Kat hates tea. There you go. So I do want to say this myth, even though just because there's got to be one person that believes it. Sorry?
Also, we're breaking cultural stereotypes here.
We're just the opposite. There you go. This myth is that certain sex positions can prevent pregnancy. And as much as this, I don't understand how this is a myth. Like, I believe that there's people out there that believe that, because just through everything, I bet you there's people are like, oh, if I sit like this or stand like this, I just won't. Gravity will like just pull the semen out of me somehow. Like, no.
Oh, I'm just trying to imagine somebody just stood there waiting for it to come out, like,
Yeah, I just, even birth control is not 100%, right? I don't care what anybody says. And after our protection one, I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the last one, but I'm just not really a fan of IUDs. I'm not sure anybody should get them. I think there's actually a lot of harm out there. And that's a myth too, that these protections are as safe as they say that they are. That's a massive myth.
Oh yeah. So one of the myths that I saw that connects with protection was people actually believe the myth that the only way you can contract HIV is through anal sex. And I'm like, that is very much not true.
Yeah.
And it's very much, it's because it's still tied to that idea, and like that very conservative old school idea that HIV and AIDS is like to do with gay sex and it's to do with the LGBT community. It's not. It's very much not. You can contract HIV from like sharing needles as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, please all use protection if you listen to this podcast.
Yes. That's scary. Like even the STD toilet seat one, like it's just ridiculous. Like, I don't know. Maybe there was a myth or like those urban legends of everybody knew this story of this girl who got pregnant in a bathtub because she shared like water with somebody who ejaculated in it. And back in high school, this story was going around.
I was gonna say, everybody knew that one girl in high school.
Yeah, like, okay, that's Virgin Mary's story over here. Okay. But who knows? I actually don't know if that's a myth or not. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but I'm gonna say it's unlikely.
I would say, unless somebody has got genital herpes and they've rubbed their like dick or vagina around the seat while they've had an outbreak, and then you've also rubbed yourself against the seat, if that is what you are doing, I think there is an issue underlying all of this.
Oh my God.
Then I would say maybe you can get an STD, but that's the only way I can think of, because
I'm officially scarred from using public washrooms. I'm just going to think of this conversation and be like, fuck, I don't want to do this.
You're going to be like, oh, somebody could be rubbing across.
Ew. Okay. But I think that's all the myths that I have, really, just a few here. Oh, I did have that one about, I would like your opinion on bisexual people are more likely to cheat.
So I hate this myth. I really hate it. I don't know whether it started in the LGBTQ community or the hetero community.
Either side.
I think, pick a side. No, it's kind of like, I think it's deeply rooted in biphobia. It's deeply rooted in this idea that if you are attracted to multiple genders, then you are automatically promiscuous, which is not the case. There are gay people, straight people, whatever sexuality. If people want to hook up, people are going to hook up. But being bisexual doesn't necessarily mean that you're automatically got a higher sex drive. It doesn't mean anything other than who you are, who you would want to have a relationship or have sex with. But I think it does really root in this idea of demonizing bisexual people, because people are automatically afraid that if I get with a bisexual person, they're going to leave me for somebody of the opposite sex. That is what it is rooted in. And my argument for this is, one, it's bullshit. They're not necessarily going to, just because they're dating a woman right now, doesn't mean they're going to leave you for a man later. Same as a man, like if they're dating a man, they're not going to leave you for a woman later. Mm-hmm. And also, why do you care? Breakups hurt, no matter who you are, no matter what side of the relationship you are on, whether you're the dumpy or the dumper, those relationships hurt when they end, especially if you did deeply care for that person. It doesn't matter what the gender is of the person they're going to get with, it's still going to hurt your feelings. So yeah, for me, I'm like, it's bullshit. It is complete bullshit. I know people who are bisexual and haven't had sex in 5 years. I know people who are bisexual and they have sex with as many people as they want to, all within a space of a few weeks. It's not, like my vaginismus is not connected to my arousal and my sex drive. Bisexuality is not connected to whether you are promiscuous or whether you are going to cheat. Sexuality and that side of you is different. Like, we both have stories of, like, the majority of stories I have of people who cheat are like my family, and they are, all of them, by the way, are like, it's the heterosexual men of my family who don't know how to not cheat. So maybe we should say being a heterosexual man is going to be, it means you're going to cheat automatically.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Like, it's not because you're bi, what, you have a low moral standard? Like, you are a bad person immediately? Like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
In fact, yeah, they probably have a higher moral standard. And I say this as a lesbian because you've got to deal with all the fucking dickheads on both sides trying to pull this at you, that you've got to find people who meet your moral levels.
It's so fear-based as well. Like, it's so fear-based, this myth.
And it's insecurity. I think it's fear-based, and it's deeply rooted in people's insecurity, whether or not they can please their partner sexually. That's where it comes from. It's this idea of, if I'm a man and I don't please her, she's going to leave me for a woman. Or if I'm a woman, she's going to decide she wants penetrative sex and she wants dick inside of her. That is where all of this is deeply rooted in. And it's their insecurity. It's nothing to do with the people they are pointing a finger at and saying, I can't date you because you're automatically going to cheat on me and break my heart. No, that's bullshit.
Yeah. What type of way to live like that? Like, I don't know. Isn't one of those things, like, maybe it's not fair to say for everybody, but if you're scared of someone cheating, like, you're most likely the cheater. I don't know if that's myth, but I feel like I've seen enough with my own eyes that I don't believe that's myth.
Or what is it? It's that line, isn't it? Of if you are the person that's constantly accusing your partner of cheating, it's because you're more likely to be the one cheating. And whether that's a myth or not, I have seen that come true so many times with so many people throughout my life, that one is a truth, not a myth.
Yes. Well, this was great. And I learned a lot here for these myths here, and this was fun. But do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I don't think so. I can't wait for our next one next week. Yes, we are filming next week.
Yes, so next week, that is also, we're gonna answer a question: if sex bots good for us or not good for us. So I'm excited for next week and sex and AI. But for everyone listening, thank you for listening. Tune in next week, and as always, stay kinky.
Bye.
Well, that's it for us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and let us know what you think. You can find me at thepartition.life and Katrina at _satisfiedcat. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time. And as always, stay kinky.